Hello, grade fives. My name is Adam Poulter, and welcome to today's geography lesson. The topic for today's lesson is rivers. Rivers are very important as well as very interesting. Now, before we get into today's topic, let's quickly go over the information we had learnt in our previous lesson. We had discussed the topic of physical features, and this topic includes elements such as mountains, hills, and coastlines. Now, with all these elements taken into consideration, we can understand that these different landscapes vary in elevation or vary in height. So one landscape is higher or lower than another. Now, for today's lesson, we are adding the element of water, and we are going to see how water behaves when introduced to these various elements. So let's get started. So, with the basic information needed for this lesson, we need to know water always flows downstream naturally. Water always flows in a downward direction, and this is due to gravity. We use water to clean basic things, and in some cases, we use water to wash things away. Now, this information is very important and keep that in mind. So, when talking about rivers, rivers start at one point and end at another, and the direction in which they flow is always a downward direction. And we can see from the little picture that I have inserted above, we can see the water in the waterfall is flowing in a downward direction. But now, what are these points called where a river begins and where a river ends? Okay, so the source of the river is the point where a river begins. This point is situated in areas with the highest elevation. The river mouth is the point where a river ends, and this is the point that is located around the edge of an ocean, estuary, or lake. And in the diagram that I have inserted above the screen, we can see a river system and we can see the water flowing from the source all the way down the landscape, eventually flowing into an estuary. And we can see the mouth is located along the edge of the estuary. Now, this estuary could be an ocean or could be a lake, but the fundamental idea behind this diagram is for you guys to understand that the water is flowing from the source and is flowing in a downward direction to the lowest point of elevation. The water from the source is coming from glacier melting or rainfall. And this is where you get the constant water flow within a river system. So let's talk about tributaries. What are tributaries? Well, tributaries are smaller parts of flowing water that join into a river. The smaller water flows are located along the sides of a river. And with the little picture that has just popped up, we can see the depiction of a river system that is flowing downhill and entering an estuary. We can see that we can see the tributaries that are attached alongside the river, and these tributaries are smaller in size. These are flowing parts of water that join into a river, and the point where they join is called the confluence. Now, it's quite interesting to note that the picture that just popped up is the depiction of a leaf, and we can see the various veins within a leaf. And it's very similar to how river systems actually look like. We have got the thick part of the vein, which is the river system, and then we've got the tributaries that are attached to the sides of the rivers. And it's quite interesting to note that in natural phenomena, there will always be similarities. So, how are rivers formed? Rivers are formed through soil erosion. This is a process in which soil and rock is slowly broken down and washed away over time by flowing water. Over time, the flowing water will erode the environment in which it is flowing through, thus making a natural pathway for the water to flow through. And we can see a nice little picture that I have inserted above my screen, and this is an example of soil erosion. And if you can imagine a mini river system, this is what a river system would look like in a miniaturized scale. We have got the source from leading from the higher elevation, and as the water flows down the landscape, it slowly erodes the soil in which it is flowing on, thus making a pathway for the water to flow through. And this is how rivers and even tributaries are created. So in this slide, we are looking at various examples of soil erosion and how the pathway in which river systems is created. We can see in the picture on the left, it's flowing water. This water is flowing down an inclined plane, and we can see the soil already has been washed away, and this is from the water. And this is how the pathway in which river systems operate is created. There's another example of soil erosion and how the water flowing down an inclined plane erodes the soil, washing away rock and soil in order to make way for the water flowing above it. And this is the pathway. This is how the pathway is created for all river systems. So let's talk about catchment areas. Catchment areas are situated in between elevated landscapes. These elevated landscapes allow for the catchment of rainfall. These areas will normally be rich in vegetation, which is plant life. The landscape will catch the water and absorb it. This is why these areas are bright green. The water that the landscape does not absorb will flow down and join the flow of the water within the river. So we can see with the image that I have inserted just above my screen, that is a depiction of a catchment area, bright green and rich with vegetation. We can see dark blue lines. That is indicating the, the flow of water within that landscape. So when it rains, this landscape will catch the water and will steer it down towards the common point, which is the middle of the catchment area. The dotted blue lines is indicating the direction in which the landscape is directing the water from the rainfall that it has just caught. So as the landscape catches the water, so it will direct the water to the flowing water within the area. And this is essentially what catchment areas are. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this lesson as well. I will see all you grade 5s in our next lesson. I hope you guys enjoy your day. Goodbye.